A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express Papers Chandigarh edition, and today is 13th of December. The news article actually starts with the international section first, and that is why you see this page. Now, let me briefly tell you some of the important articles that were there in the news. So, one is the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence with regards to regulation of AI, and Prime Minister Modi has made an address over there. So this can be asked in prelims, it can be asked in mains, anyhow. Okay. Then the COP28, the contentious issue of fossil fuel being phased out is being challenged. Then we have the CEC bill is there. The CEC bill, the manner of appointment of the election commissioners. So like this, we have news inflation is at 8.7%. It is at a high, all those issues. Plus there is an explainer which tells us about a disease known as Pompe disease, which can be asked in the prelims. Okay. Now coming to the opinion section. In the opinion section, we have Kashmir. So one article on the Kashmir issue, but it is not basically talking about 370. It is saying that since the 370 is gone, in the international attitude towards Kashmir needs to change, and India has to bring in prosperity and development in Kashmir. That is one of the themes. And the basic idea was that pre-Modi and post-Modi, the outlook of India dealing with Kashmir has changed. Actually, that was the main theme. And now 370 has been abrogated. Then another important article was with regards to India's leadership of the Global South, titled as the go-to nation for the Global South. The interesting theme which we don't think about is that he's saying that India is going to spend huge amount of money. It is going to be the bank for the Global South, not just the leader, but a bank for the Global South. It is going to engage in connectivity projects, infrastructure projects in the times to come, more so by 2030. So what India needs to do. So that was the theme. And let's just the last news from IR perspective, that is with regards to the UNSC, UNGA resolution on the issue of Gaza. And that is from where we are starting our news today. So Israel and USA are facing isolation as Gaza war grinds. Right? So Israel is attacking, pounding Gaza. It is leading to refugee crisis also, especially in North Egypt. South of Gaza is connected to north of Egypt. And US is unanimously supporting Israel in its endeavors. Okay. Now, time to time, the UNSC, United Nations Security Council, has sought to pass resolutions condemning violence, bringing in truce, ceasefire, etc. But because the P5, one of the P5 members can veto it, there has hardly been a progress because US has been vetoing anything that condemns Israel, basically the view of Israel. So that has brought in the ire of United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and he has now referred the matter to the United Nations General Assembly to vote on this issue. And UNGA has actually already voted on this issue unanimously, calling for global truce on the issue, global call for truce. Okay. Now, briefly on this, no country, with regards to the UNGA resolution that will pass is voted now, it is passed, which calls for truce. It is not binding. It is non-binding, but it creates a compelling pressure. It carries a political weight and reflects the global views on the war, and thereby the US support on Israel should wane because of that, which will not happen, by the way. But yes, that is the basic idea. Okay, now if you do a bit more research on this, we get across a very interesting item that is Uniting for Peace Resolution. So this was introduced in 1951 and has been used at least 13 times between this, 1951, 15 to 20, 51 to 2022, at least 13 times. And what does it say? It is UNGA Resolution 377A, Uniting for Peace. It says in matters where the UNSC has failed. For example, there is the global issue where the P5 members lack anonymity, where person, one country or more have passed veto. So in that case, the matter may be referred to the UNGA. I think as we see over here, that the matter has gone to the UNGA. That is the Uniting for Peace resolution. Okay, so and yes, of course, Pakistan, we are having violence in the Pakistan-Afghanistan border area. And Nawaz Sharif, who was charged with a corruption with the change of political guard, he is acquitted of charges. So it paves way for his participation in the election process in Pakistan. Okay. Now coming to the official front page. So first news that we hear is about COP28. So in the COP28, one of the major theme is the phasing out of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels includes coal plus other items, right? Why do I specify this? Because in the Glasgow summit, COP26, there was a provision of phasing out of coal. So coal should be phased out. There was a disagreement and they came out with coal should be phased down. That don't completely remove use of coal, but the usage should come down. So here, so COP26, this India itself proposed that why don't you talk about fossil fuel phase out? Right, because the coal thing was actually targeted on India only because about thermal power that we have is mainly coming from the coal, and thermal power is 70% reliance is on thermal. Okay, so this happened. And yes, I think I've already told you, if I've not, fossil fuel contributes to 80% of the emissions, and any fight on climate change cannot happen if we do not address the elephant in the room, that is 80% emission coming from fossil fuels. Okay, so this thing is going on. Saudi Arabia says nothing doing, keep this out. Our economy is based on selling of fossil fuels. They don't say that, but yes, we all know that. Okay, and they're getting support from India and China also. The common reasons which India specify is that the phasing out of coal is not appropriate in case of India's scenario, as India has to bring back people out of the trap of poverty for which it needs economic growth. Having a restriction on energy, etc., is going to hamper that. Besides, it goes against the principles of common but differentiated responsibility dash RC, that is relative capabilities. So that is a typical stand which India takes. Okay, next, President Biden not coming for Republic Day, court said to be deferred. So Prime Minister Modi, it's believed that the PM's initiative was to bring all the Quad members, which is US, India, Australia, and Japan. So all of them together at the Republic Day summit. So the leaders are not available actually, and the earliest that we can have is 27th of January. President Biden says that obviously the feasibility is not there, so it is deferred. Okay, next, revised criminal code bills. So we have this IPC, CRPC, and Indian Evidence Act. So the new ones are now coming with the Indian names, that is Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Then we have, so each one we are having these that are coming, and it has new provisions of laws, life term, death for hate crime, murder, mob lynching, terror ambit has been widened, etc. Okay, next, elderly rely on Narega. It's not a good thing. Elderly relying on Narega, and Kerala has the highest number of elderly population relying on Narega. So it is at 28%. And in Telangana, it is at 23.63%. This is a significant number. While the youthful population for which the Narega is actually designed, so they are looking at other avenues where the pay is better. So we just scroll through certain stubble burning again, right? Punjab hits farmer leader roadblock, yet mops up 53% of the fine for social stubble burning. Now, of course, to me, it is more of a case of like ethics case study as far as UPSC is concerned, right? And if dealing with that, you would need the skills of social influence. So, social influence plus external pressure. External pressure is this. Okay, changing of attitude with social influence, persuasion, so all that. World Bank team reviews digitization e-governance projects in Ludhiana. Fine, there's a city district in Punjab, so there World Bank is looking at e-governance initiatives. Now, I was thinking that we have done good work in e-governance in across the country, right? So, some of the themes on which UPSC may ask is how does e-governance facilitate good governance? Or there may be that e-governance itself is not the means to good governance. That can also be a similar question can also be asked, because e-governance is just a platform. In a digital platform, we have to overall look at the governance framework. So one is how does e-governance lead to, and the other is the e-governance is not the sole reason for good governance. That can be there. And of course, some of the e-governance initiatives we must know. So I'm referring to Drishti actually. So you can refer this article. I can share it on the Telegram so that you can do. Some initiatives are mentioned. And in fact, India has been showcasing its prowess in the e-governance and digital India is this thing. They're calling all these digital initiatives as DigiStack. DigiStack, and they're claiming and they're projecting India as the leader of digital public infrastructure. Something that India can actually share the technology and the know-how with other countries. Now, this seems important in the sense that China is giving that hard infra. So, but the digi infra is something that we can actually deliver on with developing economies and maybe developed also. So 3-4 ideas I have shared with you from mains perspective. Of course, prelims, scheme names, etc. can be asked in prelims. Okay. Lok Sabha clears 2 bills extending women's quota for Puducherry and Jammu Kashmir assemblies, and then criticism of Congress and Nehru, all that thing is going on. Right. Moving on. Opposition slams CEC bill against Supreme Court judgment, election commission freedom. Long story cut short. This is about appointment to the commissioners of the Election Commission of India. Right. And appointment of the Election Commissioner of India, it is coming from Article 324(2), which says that President shall appoint the Election Commissioner according to the provisions made by the Parliament. Provisions made by Parliament. The thing is that in the absence of a provision made by the Parliament, the Election Commissioner, the Chief Election Commissioner mainly, because the others are appointed by the CEC, President in consultation with the CEC, so mainly it is about CEC. So yeah, so in the absence of a express law on this issue, so President was appointing, that is the executive had a free hand because Parliament had not done any provision. And this was normally criticized. So one is the election commissioners, the other one that we hear commonly is the CAG office. Okay. So what happened was in one of the cases, Supreme Court, it said that Supreme Court brought in a judgment where it said that the executive cannot have a free hand in appointing of the chief election commissioner. It shall be done by a select committee of Prime Minister, leader of opposition or the leader of the largest party in opposition, and lastly, and Chief Justice of India. So this was Rekub suggested. So this new bill is basically replacing the CGI with an minister, cabinet minister. That's all. So of course, there is a bias towards the ruling party in power, right? and they'll be appointing. And the CAC's main role is to be objective and have fairness in election process. So in that way, that principle is being compromised. So this as Supreme Court judgment, it is against that provision. Now the vice president, who happens to be the lawyer also and expert on constitution, so he said that the legislature is the sole law-making body. It is not the Supreme Court. So why is Congress giving so much emphasis on the judgments? Okay, so I think that's done as far as we are concerned. Now moving on, from exam point of view, the need for reforms in the election commission. So that can be there, or the role of election commissioner as critical examination of the role of CAC. I don't think it will be asked, but still, in conducting free and fair elections, so that can be there. Plus the role of Supreme Court in bringing in electoral reforms. One example we see where a provision was made. So there are many other examples. So we need to have this prepared, because UPSC has been referring to Supreme Court judgments and telling us to quote expressly in the answers, in the questions actually, which we have to write. Okay, so first, let's rule out the articles that we're not doing today. On the CM table, what is the strategy of BJP in 2024? Not interested. Choking JNU, some new code is there, a new code of conduct. So it will affect the participation of students in protest, agitation, etc. Again, fast thinking Bahujan Samajwadi Party, not interested. This, to some extent, yes. This I'm not doing. Supreme Court's decision on Article 370 abrogation does not do justice to its record of upholding federalism and Constitution's basic structure. This I'm not doing. For the simple reason that 370 we can now get express, we can get this analysis from anywhere. And the other reason is that we're not seeing critical type of questions being asked in the UPSC. So that is also there. Okay, so coming to the first article, I on Kashmir, and this is from international point of view. Whenever this author writes, it's from international perspective. For Delhi, building peace and prosperity in Jammu and Kashmir is key to permanently changing international attitudes. Okay, so main theme here is changing international attitudes. And from here, it talks pre-Modi, post-Modi. So basically it says is that India in the past has been focusing on defensive attitude on issue of Kashmir, right? It has been a defensive attitude. Defensive with regards to what is happening in Kashmir. Sometimes they are criticized for human rights. Pakistan and China says they have a stake. So India has been defensive on all these issues. Now, some of the reasons for the defensiveness was Pakistan's full-throat military operations, the insurgency that has taken place over there, besides the breakdown of the old economic order, it was not keeping pace. So India did not have the economic might, the economic strength to deal. Today we have the economic prowess, so that was there. Then the weakness of the Congress at that time, collapse of the one-party rule, emergence of weak coalitions, so weak governments at the center. So there were some of the issues which compromised India's position. Besides, the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. It used to support India on various issues. So weakness of the Soviet Union and the views of the Clinton administration. Clinton was in power from 1993 to 2000. So their role, and they were basically critical of Kashmir's accession to India. So they wanted to get this reviewed, and plus they raised the issue of human rights violation in Kashmir. So what happened now? In the recent times, they said that the Kashmir issue shall not be discussed, deliberated with Pakistan or be it with China. So that shall not take place. Terror and talks do not go together. The K card Pakistan uses, all that is not acceptable. We have not been talking only on this issue at all. Now, the thing that has changed over the years is that post the Vajpayee, then Manmohan Singh era, and now the Modi era, the economic progress is increasing. USA's interest in the South Asia domain is reducing. Plus, the ties with Pakistan has gotten bad. Soviet issue is no longer there. They are now moving towards pivot to Asia. They're concerned about China, and they see India as a credible partner on that front. So it's now pro-India, right? So that Kashmir issue has been diluted for them. They're not concerned with it anymore. So that is the change that has taken place over the years. Plus, we have a strong government at the union. Next article is the go-to nation for the global south. India is already a voice of the global south. India can become a bank for it as well. It needs outward focused development finance cooperation that can catalyze projects globally. I think that was sufficient enough. I didn't focus while doing the analysis. I was reading all this. I made a lot of highlights. It's gone, but yes. So let's break this up. Already a voice of the global south. Some of the initiatives we can refer maybe. One is India WTO issue, climate change issue, right? At the UNFCCC, India is the voice of the global south. Besides, India is since solar energy, we're not getting the cooperation of the developed the global north. So we have the International Solar Alliance, we have the Global Biofuel Alliance. So number of such initiatives are there. India was one of the founding members of the non-aligned movement. So that was again with the global south. So many things are there. So we are already a voice. Again, pharmaceutical also trips intellectual property rights, medicines, easier access to medicines, affordable medicines to Africa, etc. So that we are doing. Now India can be a bank for it as well. So that is what the author is saying. But for this, we need the support of other economies. And one more thing it says is that previously it was China that was emerging. So it was US, Europe, and then China. But if we see their economies are affected at the moment, China's growth also has not been keeping pace. In fact, we really don't have a data on this, but there is some problem with the Chinese economy. And the Chinese growth rate has not been growing at that rate, but still it's able to keep momentum. That's what the author is saying. So what is the thing is that people who were first leading the charge are winning down while India is rising. India is actually the fastest growing economy in the last quarter. Okay, so that is this thing. Further, the issue is the second thing is that China may have created hard infrastructure, etc., but India's approach is something that is more sustainable. India is focusing on green and digital future, right? India's commitment to all those initiatives that I mentioned, ISA, Global Biofuel Alliance, etc. So that is commitment to the global future. India has actually met its obligations of renewable energy target also. So that is there. Then Digi stack that we referred sometime back, digital public infrastructure, all those things. So all this is there. Now for this, India still needs a credible partners. India's economy is growing, and the outflow of money capital from India to other sectors, for example, Africa, etc., especially with regards to connectivity, supply chain, resource resilience, will increase. So already that outflow is there. India's as a government, it is doing through grants plus private sector. Reliance, Airtel, all of them are doing it right now. So that is there. But India will need the support of other countries. One good example is Asia-Africa Growth Corridor. Asia-Africa Growth Corridor is a partnership between India and Japan. Japan has a lot of money, right? So they are helping India with regards to the creating of infrastructure over there. And it is seen as a counter to the Chinese presence in the African region. So it's seen as an alternative over there. So similar initiatives can be worked out between India, Africa, India, Japan, US, Australia. So like-minded countries can work together. So India can be a bank for the global south. Yeah. Next, talking about the Kashmir issue. So previously we heard about J&K legislature, women quota, right? Now we hear that Kargil, Ladakh region, basically, they are not satisfied with them being a union territory. So Jammu, they were part of the Jammu and Kashmir, but later they were made a union territory. UT of Ladakh, UT of Jammu and Kashmir, and UT without legislature, UT with legislature. So the people over there, they say that we're not satisfied with this. We want full statehood, given that we have our own distinct culture. In fact, we have been very patriotic. We have contributed to the country's national security growth, etc. So we need full statehood. So that is the demand. I'll tell you something. Pre-2014, right, just before the election, we heard that Ladakh wants the UT status, and now it's the statehood. Now we come to the economy section. Let us look at the oil rate first. 76.47. Over the last week, we have seen it to fall to 80 from 83, from 80, and now 78, then 76. Consistently, we are seeing it at this level. Dollar is at 83.38. Okay. Now inflation data. So we have inflation for data for November that is released, and so CPI. Obviously, when we talk about inflation, it is CPI. So it is at an all-time high in the month of November, and the consumer food price index is at 8.7%. So mainly the inflation figure is driven from the food prices. So CPI index increased to 8.2% from 6.24%, mainly coming from this thing. Hopefully, it should soothe with the oil prices coming down in this quarter, present quarter. Okay. Next, we get to know about Oman, a very friendly nation actually, as far as India is concerned. So where is the map of Oman? Yes. So this is the Arabian Peninsula, and you can see where Oman is located. The capital of Oman actually is Muscat, and Oman lies in near the Gulf of Oman and the Strait of Hormuz, if you can look closely. It's a very friendly nation. A lot of connectivity initiatives. It has helped, keep other West Asian countries connected with us. So all that thing is there. They also propose an oil pipeline flowing directly from Oman to Bombay High, that region. Okay, so now moving on. So we have a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Oman. We don't know the details, not mentioned here, but the signing of this is likely to help boost our economic ties with West Asia, more so with the oil, right? Oil exports and India's exports to Oman. Logical thing, actually. Okay, one by one. Pompe disease. What is this? It's a rare genetic disorder. It impacts mobility and everyday functions. What are the side effects? Muscle weakness, motor skill delay, respiratory complications, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's something to do with heart muscles. Okay. So this girl, sadly, she passed away because of this disease at the age of 24. Goldfish, the pet fish that we see, it's believed to be great in the bowl, but if it is, it is released in the wild, then they can almost eat anything. It's kind of an invasive species, not good for the ecosystem. So this fish, the scientific name you can see, it's the family of Cyprinidae of order, right? This is the name of the fish. See for yourself. Okay, that's it. Next, this is interesting, food versus fuel, case of sugar. So the government proposed ethanol blending of petroleum, petrol, diesel, etc. Ethanol blending, mainly with petrol actually. Okay. So ethanol blending, they said, they write it as like this, E10, E20. So previously it was E10, although we achieved 4-5% only. Then the target was increased to E20. E20 means ethanol part 20% of the fuel. Right, so in 1 liter there will be 200 ml of ethanol. So that is what it means. Okay, now where does ethanol come from? There are different generations of ethanol, but the most easy this thing is that food, let it ferment, we will get ethanol, right? So sugar cane, for example, sugarcane juice, that can be converted into ethanol. The easiest way of doing that. So by doing so, of course, we are diverting the food for the purpose of fuel. It affects the food security, more so with regards to the sugar. And sugar, we are very high sugar consuming country, so the sugar prices will also get increased because of that. So blending of ethanol with petrol has risen sharply in this last decade, but low sugar stocks and uncertainty over production this year have forced the government to go slow on its blending program. It's not sustainable. That means now one more thing. I said there are different generations. So one is, of course, let's say sugar cane. So easiest way of explaining it, we crush it and we get the juice, which can be converted into ethanol, which we drink. We like it, sugarcane juice. So that is first generation. If we use it directly food items, then the cellulose fiber that is there, paper like bagasse, that can also be used to make ethanol. But of course, it's more costly. It takes more resources, but it can be done. Why do I specify? Because this was asked in prelims, I think 2011 or 2013 it was asked.